All right, good afternoon. It is now 5:15 p.m. on January 27th, and our work session is now in session. Commissioner Foss? Calling the roll.
Yes.
Calling the roll.
Roll. Oh, yes, sorry. Here.
All right, Commissioner Chismar?
Here.
Commissioner Taylor?
Here.
And Commissioner Hanley?
Here.
All right, terrific. And first up is the approval of the agenda. May I have a motion?
I move we approve the agenda.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I second.
Any changes to this evening's agenda? All right, Mr. Krantz, we're ready to vote.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for approval of this evening's meeting agenda of the Bel Air Board of Town Commissioners work session, January 27th, 2026. Commissioner Foss, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Chismar?
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor?
Aye.
Commissioner Hanley?
Aye.
And Chair Edding.
Aye.
Agenda is approved. Thank you.
All right, first up is the Town Administrator's Report. Eddie?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have some comments for the snow, but I'll save them for later under staff comments and move into some other things that I have for you. A couple of things. You have a handout on your table. One will be for the closed session later, and one has to do with the Lions Club. This just came out today. It's fresh off the press. The event will be in May. And we're looking at 32 cars this year, and we also will include what's called 2 super racers, which will be races for disabled children. So there'll be an opportunity for handicapped children to participate in the Derby race as well. And there's more to come on that. We are currently, because of that, we have to rework the MOU with them. Liz and I'll be meeting with them. But I wanted to share this information with you. It's kind of exciting. With 32 cars up from where we started with 10 3 years ago is a pretty significant increase. I wish my stock portfolio would grow that fast. So I'm really excited about that. The other handout you have will be for later in our closed session. And we're also going to be talking NTMP later this evening, but on a positive note, got 2 emails today, one over the weekend and one today, pretty good news. We had pursued, Madam Chair, you remember you were part of the meeting, we had pursued a flashing light with at Route 924 and Idlewild Road. And they State Highways got back to us, told us they would put in and do a study. That was several months ago. We know they take a long time. We sort of knew at the beginning the data might be lacking because the perception is it's a dangerous intersection as it is, but we also knew there's minimal traffic crashes there, minimal kids that cross the street. So we weren't sure what they might rule. And they actually confirmed what we already knew. But the nice thing is they took the high road and they have, in order to promote pedestrian safety and encourage awareness, they are going to install rectangular rapid flashing beacons at that intersection that will activate when kids cross the street.
Terrific news.
We won't get a yellow light on the pole like we see out at Independent, but we will have yellow flashing lights, which are LED, high intensity, and amber in color, and they'll attract the attention of drivers and motorists. So I see that as a win. I did hear from several of the families that worked with us on that matter. They're equally as excited. Of course, it'll probably be spring or summer before these are installed, but at least they'll be ready to go hopefully for next school year. Also, in our continuing pathway to fix Main Street at Lee Street, State Highways also did a further study of that. I think, once again, I don't know that the data, unfortunately, the numbers don't necessarily support what we're looking for because speed sometimes is a perception. But I think we're very clear on the pedestrian danger, even at slow speeds at this intersection. To that end, Will Pines, who is the SHA director, if you will, secretary, came up with his staff in December, unbeknownst to me. We'd met with them, but we didn't know he had come up and actually visited the area on December the 19th. They, too, now agree with us that there can be improvements done to that intersection, have made some recommendations. And Mr. Klein and I just got this email over the weekend during the snowstorm. So really, we need some time to really digest what they're suggesting to see if we can make it happen. But at least it's a step in the right direction. So very pleasing responses for a weekend where I didn't think that we would reach a conclusion with them, an optimistic one to say the least. I'm very optimistic that they recognize the challenges that we were faced with, and hopefully we'll move forward in a light favorable to pedestrian safety. And then the last thing is just very quickly from our agenda priorities list, which 6 months ago was a page and a half. We're now down to 1 paragraph. which means we can take March to summer off if you want. Anyway, just the 4 bullets that I have that are high profile for us right now is we did discuss the parking legislation and parking fund budget analysis at the January 13th work session. Lisa and Kevin reviewed a lot of material with you. At this point, really, the ball's kind of back in the commissioner's court as to what you want us to do. So we'll need your guidance on future discussions and when you want to add that to another agenda. Your wind sale sign regulations we'll be discussing tonight. The neighborhood traffic management program we'll be discussing tonight. And Commissioner Taylor's request for a charter change, we have that on the February 10th work session. The other 5 bullets that are outstanding are basically we're waiting on other entities to address. The DRRAs, we're waiting, if it's follow-up meeting to be scheduled, waiting for Maryland legislature in the spring of '26. APF, still waiting on county direction. ADUs will be placed on the agenda in the spring. Historic preservation, I know that we have been working on that. That's still pending. And affordable housing will be after the next legislative session as well. Everything else is in the green on my sheet here, which means we've made a lot of progress. So those are present and current agenda items. So as I mentioned, I will have some comments under a staff report related to the snowstorm, and I'll defer back to you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Any questions for Eddie? Okay, next we have, go ahead. Oh, okay. Tentative agenda for our town meeting, we're going to have a presentation, the promotion of Nicholas Rhodes to senior officer. Chief?
Yes, ma'am, Commissioners. We're going to recognize Senior Officer Nick Rhodes on his promotion to that rank. And if you're not familiar, you have to have 10 years of service, continuous service, to be able to get to that level. He's an awesome officer. He's doing a great job out here keeping us safe, making a lot of arrests, closing a lot of cases. And by the way, he's also a U.S. Marine officer on the side. So he's doing a lot of things, making us proud and doing a great job serving the town, but we'll recognize him for his promotion.
I heard he's also a great recruiter as well for the
Yes,
Bel Air Police
yes,
Department.
He is. Oh, and do you already have your bio? We'll have that prepared.
I do
for
not
you.
have my bio, but
We'll
I
get it
remember
ready.
that from the graduation ceremony that Gavin and I went to. The 2 officers that were graduating were both Marines, former Marines as well. You're always a Marine, you're never a former Marine. But they were coming to the Bel Air Police Department, and it was as a result of Officer Nick Rhodes'
We've got 4 of them.
efforts.
The Marines like the Bel Air PD. So
I like them as well. Yeah, they're great. They're great.
lucky to have them.
They're already ship shape when you get them. All right. Anything else on Nick Rhodes' promotion? Well deserved. All right. Winter Wonderland Certificate of Recognition. Angela, is that you?
That's me.
Oh, that's you. All right.
So the Winter Wonderland this year, I think we all can agree it was a great success. And not only did it make the town of Bel Air look beautiful, but it brought thousands of people here to support our local businesses. And the Winter Wonderland is completely volunteer driven. So, I'd like to recognize the people that were involved with making that event successful.
I think that's a great idea. It is just so beautiful to see at Christmas time and to see all the kids in the sleigh with Santa and all the grown-ups walking up and down the streets. It really is like a Christmas card come to life. So great. We'll recognize them. Anything else on the Winter Wonderland? All right. New business, we'll have the reappointments to the Bel Air Economic and Community Development Commission and an appointment to Cultural Arts, which we will discuss in closed session. And now we have the Commissioner's liaison reports. The tree committee did meet and was talking about spring. They were talking about Arbor Day and opening of the farmers market in the spring in April and what trees they're going to order, and as well as the health of the Major's Choice oak, which is in pretty good shape but always needs an eye kept on it. It's a huge, beautiful old tree. So
Both of my committees meet in the first half of the month, so I am clear for this one, Madam Chair.
And the planning and the Board of Appeals hasn't met since our last work group meeting, so nothing more to report there.
okay.
Cultural Arts met, and we're excited about the sculpture and the RFP that went out, and that is on Atwood Road, right near the former 510 Johnny's on that corner in there. So we're really excited about looking for that, and I think that was pretty much the big skinny from that meeting.
All right, we're looking forward to it. Gavin?
The Committee for Seniors and Citizens in Need met last Thursday. Stephanie, our grants coordinator. She was there, and she will be applying for an AARP Community Challenge Grant, and that will be for a fall prevention class, so hopefully we get that. And then the Historic Preservation Commission met last week as well, and the Historical Society, the building right up on Main Street, they will be getting lettering on the front of the building, as well as a seal on the sign that's out front.
Sounds good. All right, next we have the staffing update. Mike?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The two positions that we had advertised for police recruit and police lateral have just ended, and we're going to be reviewing those candidates and conducting some interviews and background checking, as well as for the Department of Public Works laborer position. The one position that we still have posted, and it'll be up for another week or so, is our Director of Planning position. So if anybody knows somebody in the planning industry and is interested in recommending someone, please direct them to the town website.
All right, thank you. Anything for Mike? All right, next we have our calendar, and the one calendar item that I know we need to look at is we need to move the February 24th meeting date that we have because it conflicts with, I think it's Hartford Night in Annapolis. So, Eddie, you have any suggestions that,
No, man, most of the time, I think most of the staff is so used to Mondays and Tuesdays that if we were moving it back one day to the 23rd,
That looks like the clearest day.
yeah.
looks good to me.
Yeah, it's clearest day, ma'am.
All right, so I can make it, Jake can make it. Gavin,
Staff?
can you make the 23rd Monday
issues?
instead of the 24th?
Lisa?
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
Steve? Good?
Okay. 23rd works, ma'am. Okay.
All right.
I can make it.
All right,
Liz?
then the 24th is officially moved to the 23rd. There we go. That went much faster than I thought.
There wouldn't be a work session that Tuesday. Wouldn't the work session be on the 31st?
Okay, let's look, because maybe we don't have a conflict.
There is no 31st of February.
Yes, there is no, yes.
Isn't this, oh, this is February. Sorry.
You have me very confused.
I apologize.
Okay. All right, so we're good. The 23rd will be it. So everybody will make a notation on our calendar. Any other calendar items? I'm not sure there, I didn't see any. I know that Thursday we do have the ribbon cutting for Towson Hot Bagels, or THB as they're called, because they're not going to be in Towson. They're going to be in lovely Bel Air. And I will be attending that. I don't know if anybody else can make it. Thursday, this week, the 29th.
I'll be there.
I think we all got an email about it, but
From Phil Logan.
correct.
You should have got an email from Hartford Chamber from Phil.
I'm sure I let Angela know that I was coming, so if anybody else is coming, you can let Angela know, or just surprise us when you show up. But it is, everybody's really looking forward to that. I think they're gonna have a huge grand opening and be a terrific success. They have a lot of followers out here. All right, any other calendar items? All right, in that case, we'll move on to miscellaneous, the wind sales sign regulations. Kevin? And I know, just to preface before Kevin starts, this is we're discussing this again as a result of requests from a few businesses on US Route 1. One is the 5-minute oil change guy who actually came in and spoke to us. The kebab corner that's there where Orange Theory is also had and put away their wind sale signs. There's also further back in there a spa that had wind sale signs out, but again, has put them away since they've been informed they can't have them. And I know that the car detailer that's right next to Greek Village used to have them out, but I don't see them anymore. So I think many of the businesses up and down the US Route 1 corridor thought they were a economical way to get the word out that they're open and back there, particularly on some of those things where you can't see them back further in the business areas. They'd like to have them back. I did ask Kevin to take a look at it to let us know what other jurisdictions were doing. And I know we changed the law in 2023 to specifically say wind sails, but prior to that, they sort of weren't permitted, but they, as a distraction to drivers, but not specifically.
Correct.
Okay.
So, yeah, since I've been here, we've always treated them as prohibited, but we didn't specifically prohibit wind sail or feather signs. And that's something because we were looking at whatever is distraction to motorists. So I'll just read the section that's under prohibited signs. Signs which distract motorists, create a disruptive movement or excessive glare containing or consisting of pennants, ribbons, streamers, spinners, strings of light bulbs, rotating signs, flashing lights, searchlights, wind sail signs, LED light signs and electronic reader boards, or other similar moving devices, including commercial signs held by pedestrians. These devices, when not part of any sign, are similarly prohibited. So again, we've treated that the same for as long as I've been here, and before that, and it's based on the distraction that they create. Otherwise, why would you want them? You want something that's gonna get attention. So that's where you're at. See whether, I mean, I can answer any questions. I gave you kind of a little synopsis of what is permitted by, you know, in the business zones and what you can do. Aberdeen allows them with a permit. Havre de Grace does not allow them. And the county says they don't allow them, but they're all over the county.
That's why I
So-
was wondering, because I do see them everywhere, and I think our businesses feel like they're a little, it's a little unfair because everybody else has them and they don't have them, and I kind of understand that. I don't find them terribly distracting, but I don't spend a lot of time reading them. I mean, they're meant to be like scanned in seconds kind of a thing, so.
And this is something, if we wanted to, we could say that they're permitted in only B3 and B3A, just for example.
You could, if you wanted to restrict them to a particular zone, you can.
And I would want to do that. I would not want to see them up and down
Main Street.
Bond Street or
Yeah.
Main Street, but the
Bond
US Route
Street's
1.
B3,
Okay,
yeah.
That's true.
that's
Yeah.
true.
One thing I will
Is
say,
Bond Street B3 or B3A?
it's B3A, I'm sorry.
Right, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
One thing I will say, it will be nearly impossible if you require them to be permitted, meaning to put them up and for us to start a time clock on every single one of them that gets put up, it would be difficult, to say the
What do you
least.
mean?
Well, if somebody puts up a wind sail sign
Right.
and they get a permit for it,
Yep.
then then I have to assign a 60-day time clock to that permit. And I can almost guarantee you they're not going to come down after 60 days.
I see what you're saying. Okay. You mean if we were to say that they can be put up temporarily?
Well, these are all temporary signs, but you're
Right,
right. If
sure.
you wanted to allow them, my preference would be allow them.
Right.
If
see.
you, now, well,
I would
my
agree
preference
with
would
you
be
on that.
not to allow them.
Not to allow them.
But if you are going to allow them, don't have a time clock on them so that we have to track them.
It'll just be a constant,
Yeah.
yeah, it'll be a constant problem. Yeah. What does Aberdeen do? They just allow them? They don't have permits? Or they do
They
have
do
a permit?
permit them.
Do permit.
And it's
Yeah.
up for a limited time period?
Yeah, it's, I don't know, in the code that I read, I didn't see a place where they had a time limit. So it could be that once they're up, they can stay up as long as they want.
That's what I would bet they do. They might require a permit to make sure it's, not, there was one on Bond Street that was like on the sidewalk and was, the state right-of-way is there, and that, there's a whole host of other issues when it's on a pedestrian sidewalk, particularly when there's a state right-of-way there.
A lot of folks put these signs up on the weekends because they know we're not running around. And then they take them down on Monday morning.
Yeah. It just, what bothers me about it is everybody's doing it except for the rule followers.
Right.
So they get punished, whereas the games players, the weekend folks are getting the benefit of having it out there, and then the folks that are paying attention to the rules and are trying to be compliant don't get the benefit of that for their businesses, and that sort of bothers me.
I agree with you. It bothers me too. I think that this is an appropriate thing along Baltimore Pike. Kevin, you pointed out I had forgotten that B3A sort of snakes from Baltimore Pike to Bond Street and really up to, I think, Lee or so. It goes up north a ways up Bond Street. And that makes it difficult then, because if we say only B3, well, then a number of businesses on Baltimore Pike get cut off. You know,
And a lot of people will come back to you saying,
Right.
how come we can't do
Right,
it?
and I think including that Orange Theory place is in B3A, I think. Angela's shaking her head, yes. You know better off the top of your head than I
Orange
do.
Theory and 331?
331.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So there's not a great way to split the baby on this one.
Okay.
Right. And the other thing is that some of the businesses can be very concentrated. And then you're gonna have 20 signs. I mean, take a look at, you know, I get the idea, if there's just one or two or whatever, it's not a big deal, but when you see one business do it, and if you're in, like, the Bel Air Shopping Center or one of their shopping centers, then you're just gonna have, there's 15 businesses or 20 businesses there. So you could potentially have 20 signs along the stretch of that road. You know, that's the part that, you know, one or two is, to me,
Right,
is not a
I
big
know.
deal. But when you can have that many, it's, I don't know. It does become a distraction, and it does become somewhat of an eyesore to me.
If you've ever been through Benson, where all the car dealerships are,
Yes, right.
Yes.
it's trashy.
And that, I do agree with Commissioner Chismar that, you know, when you have an area like 331 Baltimore Pike, where there are maybe 7 uses in there, then that does become a problem and creates even more of a distraction and safety issues for our drivers that are going down Baltimore Pike, which is already a busy area to travel through. And then also to really look at what are those signs saying? Open, welcome, do they have the business name on them? You know, what are they communicating, and is that enough of an advantage for us to change something that's not permitted to allow them?
I'm personally not in favor. I don't really like the way they look, and I think it could
Okay.
get out of hand if we allow it, because it would be too difficult to say, you know, this district you can, this you can't. So then that means we would have to open the floodgates per se, and at that point, I think it would be too much.
I don't want to see them everywhere. I would be okay with them on US Route 1, but I don't want to see them on Main Street or Bond Street.
I agree with Angela. Baltimore Pike is so congested, especially during some parts of the day around noon and such. Any little distraction and somebody's not paying attention to the front of them, we're gonna have front-end crashes, or we're gonna have all kinds of crashes. We just had one today, handled by the state police right at Baltimore Pike and Tollgate Road, where a lady was flown out. Yeah, it was, prayers to that family. Apparently the lady operator was in serious condition, but and I wasn't there, but it sounds like a dump truck was going north on Baltimore Pike and hit a lady coming out of South Tollgate Road and made a right turn, so she took a broadside hit right at the driver's side. So prayers to the family, but it doesn't take much on Baltimore Pike because of the gridlock and the congestion there. So I'm with Angela. I don't like the idea of the flags there. I think it'd be a distraction.
Thank you, Angela. That's a really good point that you made, and I agree with Commissioner Chismar as well. And I also agree with Kevin. I don't care for them either. I don't think they really are aesthetically what we want in town.
All right. I think we can move on to the next item, which is discuss the Neighborhood Traffic Management Program.
So, Madam Chair, I'll tee this up and then turn it over to Kevin. Pursuant to all of our discussions, basically from August through December, and in the desire of the commissioners to really relook at their NTMP program, we have met several times and done so. We have sent the commissioners our changes to the booklet, the scoring sheets, and some of our proposed suggestions we wanted you to consider. We think we like it. We have used it. We had a meeting 2 weeks ago. We test drove it, if you will, on several of our current outstanding traffic requests. We think it favors, we think it does a better job of favoring the data and favoring the residents in a sense that all the concerns we had with the Broadway issue and a couple other ones, and some of the numbers and so forth, we think it addresses those numbers in a much better fashion. So with that, I will turn it over to Kevin, who actually authored most of this based on committee consensus.
The, you have everything that was sent out, emailed out by Eddie, but I did want to address some of the concerns that came up from the public. I think there's an impression that if it's not codified, somehow you lose a lot of that transparency. And I think anything that you commissioners would like to include in the policy can be included in the policy. If there's a requirement that they be advertised, a requirement that they be, that a commissioner liaison be present, a requirement that their minutes be done. One of the things that, all of those are fine, it's just that once something goes in the code, a lot of the state, Open Meetings Act, some of these things, suddenly we're watching our Ps and Qs, which, is very fine, but the flexibility of this committee becomes a little bit less flexible. The booklet that you have does have the application, which I think that was asked for. So let me know if there's anything that you would like to see changed about that. I found a typo on the second page, which is just matching up the number of points that you need in step 4. If there's any other typos, just let me know. There's also the evaluation worksheet, which is basically the same as it was before, but it really kind of changes, it puts more emphasis on the ability for it takes away some of the vagueness of the previous worksheet. How close are you to an elementary school? Well, now you have that distance that you need to adhere to. And it goes on down the line, and you can look at the worksheet and decide whether or not it's got enough information. And then we also included, actually already had this, but a petition for traffic calming. So somebody has something to follow, and they know exactly what to put on there. And what we would probably do is make sure that before they started handing that out, we would look at it and say, yes, you're explaining this correctly, proceed. And then a lot of the introduction, the point assignment system, whatnot, that was taken from the county NTMP, which I think they just recently revised it, not more than like a year and a half ago, and did a good job. So that, if you want to go through that, and you can let me know any changes you'd like to see. Then after that's done, in our manual, we have a lot of the examples of what traffic calming devices would be. That stays the same. There's no change to that at all. So and all that comes directly out of the MUTCD, or it comes out of information that we pulled from other jurisdictions regarding descriptions of what a raised crosswalk is, or what a roundabout is, things like that. So with that, I'll take any questions or comments.
Yeah, Kevin, I had some comments and then some discussion points I think we need to go on. But some of the comments on page 1, the last paragraph, page 1 of the introduction, it says, and if the required approval from the neighborhood residents has been obtained, the town will install physical calming measures based upon the availability of funding. It makes it sound like
So
that's
say
a
may?
given.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, okay, or consider, or it needs to be a little softened, because I think later on you say there's board approval and stuff for levels 2 and 3, so,
Yeah.
just need to, okay? Here was a big discussion.
Do we want to say, I'm sorry, Steve, just to jump on that, do we want to say that if they reach that level of community input, that the staff will put it in front of the board? Still leaves the decision up to us, but I want to
Right.
make sure there's something concrete that if 75% of the community wants it and it's gone through this, we
Right.
should hear about it, I think.
Yes, I think that's in later on, isn't it? I think this is just like the glossary up front.
I get that. I just don't want to say may install. I'd prefer, will
Okay.
provide to the board. And then of course, it's still our decision as
I'm
all
good with that.
budget items are. Okay, yeah.
I'm good.
What you can say, the town will then seek permission to, of the commissioners to review the request, something like that. Okay.
Yeah, something like that. Okay.
Historically, have commissioners always approved the speed humps or, level 2 devices?
No.
No.
No. So this would be new that we would
Yes.
approve everyone.
Okay.
And are we all on board with that?
I think
I
that's,
am,
I
'cause-
think that's where we ended up,
Yeah.
sort of. Everything was going on at the, staff level, and you would have meetings, and we would know nothing about it. And then suddenly, there was an outcry from the neighborhood that we did hear about, and we were, we didn't know everything that had gone before, frankly. So we weren't involved at all. But, the buck stops here, we answer for it, and it's a budget item as well. So it just wasn't being pointed out. This will allow us to know what is going on and to make a decision to commit budget funds rather than be in the dark until the last minute. And I don't mean that as any sort of negative to anyone that was involved. It just, this one was a one-off and really pointed out, while things had been working fine before, it just didn't work in this particular instance when people were so angry about, don't put it there.
Yeah, typically, level 2 and level 3 are going to cost more than a few $100s, and they would probably go into the budgetary process for you to approve. And you would probably approve them before that goes into the budgetary process. What gets approved by the town administrator would be signs, pavement graphics, things like that.
Can I
And he would
ask-
still be informed, not necessarily approving.
Since the time that anyone currently sitting has been on the board, so a little over 4 years in the case of Mayor Edding and 2 and change for Steve Chismar and I, has the board, have any new speed humps, aside from the one in Broadway, been installed in town over the past 2 to 4 years? Steve Klein might know.
Yes. We did install a pedestrian crosswalk at Hartford National Bank,
Oh,
right,
yeah.
I mean Hartford Insurance on Gordon Street.
But that was a crosswalk, not a speed hump.
Correct.
Okay,
It
sure.
operates pretty similarly,
Okay.
that it's a raised
Oh,
pedestrian
it is raised,
crosswalk.
okay.
Yes.
Understood. All right, got it. And that was when about?
Probably about 3 years, 2 or 3 years ago. I know Eddie was here, so
Okay.
it did
Right.
in that range.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
So, but safe to say this is not a common occurrence. Doesn't happen even
No.
once every year.
No.
Right.
Right, yeah.
Commissioner Taylor, back to Hartford Mutual. They wanted a speed hump. The actual configuration of the road would not permit a speed hump. So what they got was a raised pedestrian crosswalk. You notice it when you drive over it. If you hit it at 40, you're still going to be like, what was that? As opposed to, say, the speed hump on Pennsylvania Avenue, if you hit it at 40, it's going to rock your world. Right. So, but that's the only one that it shouldn't be. But that's how that one played out.
Okay, another question I had was the non-local traffic. And then, that's mentioned in here, it goes on to the points sheet and whatever. I'm still confused as to why we're even considering non-local traffic. I mean, traffic is traffic.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have vehicles exceeding the speed limit and you have this amount of congestion, then it doesn't matter if it's local or non-local. And I think trying to determine what's local and not local is going to be pretty difficult, especially in the neighborhood and how you've said how you're going to compute it, which is 10 trips per day per household. But if there's multiple ways in and out of a neighborhood,
Mm-hmm.
then you're saying there are going to be 10 across that point you're measuring, and in reality, not. So
You're assigning trip distributions based upon
kind of,
your opinion of how people would get in and out of the neighborhood. But
Right.
you're right, it is more of an art than it is a science.
And I'm just wondering whether that's, what should be a point. It's just, traffic is traffic. It doesn't matter if they came from the neighborhood. And I asked the chief earlier today about when he does traffic enforcement in a neighborhood, who are the violators? And Chief, you were saying,
It kind of depends on the neighborhood. So
Right.
traditionally, we know that Howard Park, it's probably a little bit more of citizens and motorists trying to use detours and things like that.
Right.
Back in Major's Choice, it's more residents. We just know that from tradition. Homestead Village, kind of the same thing. You
Right.
know, except for McPhail is used, from Briar Hill as a detour. But might be a little bit more of a mix back at McPhail and Homestead Village. But back in Major's Choice, personally, I think it's mostly residents. And I did speak with our traffic person, and he concurs. He believes the same thing. Yeah.
I mean, I think one of the things I'll add to that is that when you measure non-local, whether or not there's a points assigned to it, when you measure non-local and you know that a certain percentage, or you think that a certain percentage is non-local traffic, it will affect how you recommend a remediation for that. Non-local traffic, if you cut off a particular access to a neighborhood, could markedly change how the traffic flows through there. I guarantee you, when we get our traffic study for Howard Park, which is winding up here in the next couple weeks, that will show that people are cutting through the neighborhood, and that what they recommend for solutions to that are going to be, they're going to be different than if there was just a high volume. So that's something that just to think about. I don't know, I don't have a problem with because you're actually doubling up when you have volume points and non-local traffic points. You're almost you're weighting traffic volume over speed, and I think speed is what really affects the neighborhood and makes it less safe for people to be in that neighborhood.
well, I think you brought up another thing to consider. Is there some measures that are speed reduction, and you're saying in some cases because of cut-through, there is traffic reduction by
Right.
pushing traffic other
Trying
ways.
to push traffic other ways.
So,
Because what you do is you've cut off one thing, you're just pushing that traffic to another. I think the mayor
Well,
said
right.
that before.
it's the Pillsbury Doughboy. You
Mhm.
push in here, bulges out there,
Well,
right?
especially since the town was built back in the, thank you.
I remember that commercial. Remember that? You don't remember that commercial? Okay.
The town was built back when gridded streets were how neighborhoods were designed, and it worked because it distributed traffic evenly. Well, sometimes when you have a particular origin and destination, that's going to take you right through a neighborhood, and that's
Right.
where you have the issues. But I certainly don't mind if that becomes just if the points are greatly reduced for non-local and then, or eliminated, but at least we look at them to understand what that means. Up to you.
I see what you're getting at, but yeah. I'm just wondering whether to distribute those points along to the other categories. It's not taking those points away, it's distributing them to the volume and/or speed.
Yeah, and this is
Criteria.
just purely opinion for me, but to me, the two most important categories are speed and crashes. Those are the two most important indicators that there's a problem, and that problem is affecting the safety of that neighborhood.
I think I agree with Kevin on that those are, I know my street is kind of a heavy volume street. I don't know the last time it was counted, but because it's Shamrock and it is the major loop road through Major's Choice and also carries a lot of traffic from like the other side, like the Hampton Ridge neighborhood folks. I know some of them and they travel down that way as well. And I don't really notice the volume, but if there were crashes, I would definitely feel differently about how how safe the street felt. And I do, from time to time, notice people that are going well above the speed limit, and that, if you're crossing the street or you're a kid on a bike or, you know, the ball rolls out there or something like that, a car going significantly faster than the posted speed limit makes it a much different environment.
Yeah. I will also add that we took a lot from the county's manual, and one of the things we took was that the county does not put speed humps on collector roads. And I have to admit, I like that, because if you're on a collector road, that is meant to have cars go faster, and it's meant to collect cars from other neighborhoods. So you can still do attenuation of vehicles in there, but not to the extent of using what they call vertical control, which is speed humps. I like keeping that on local roads, because that is where you have roads such as Broadway, where you have cut through, and that is something, again, that affects safety.
And I've seen that
Submit.
same statement in other locations besides the counties, that they don't permit speed humps on collector roads for exactly that reason.
Okay, so I'm not sure how I'm going to go forward with how to think about
I can
non-local, that's all.
I can revise the calculation sheet and send it back out to you, because I'm not sure there's a huge, time constraint here. I can send
Right.
that back out to you, and you can take a look at it. I actually like the idea of having it in there, but taking away the points, and that's up to you. If you give me that direction, I'll do that. And then I'll put those points other places.
Yeah, I mean, I like the non-local traffic when you're trying to look at shifting traffic, if you have to, but then again, like you say, you're just moving it somewhere else. It's not getting rid of the traffic. But when you're just looking at it from a speed perspective, when you're looking at it for a speed mitigation measure, I don't think it has much value.
Right.
Okay, because volume is volume.
Right.
Okay, doesn't matter. So there's kind of like two purposes of this sheet, or, using that scoring system, depending on what you're doing, some of the points make sense, and in my case, or in my opinion, when you're looking at just speed reduction, it doesn't make much sense to have, who cares about non-local and local traffic, it's just volume.
Well, and if you're looking at non-local, your speed and volume are solid numbers. They're measured. They
Right.
are done by a machine. Non-local is an estimate.
It's an
It
estimate.
is, I think this is what it is,
Right.
but it's not definite.
Right, and then what's the local?
Right.
If you take a look at Broadway, does that include residents from Shamrock or Major's Choice? Because it's just one continuous neighborhood, even though there's a name associated with it, but there's really no physical boundary. It's just a line drawn that says, this is Ingleside, this is Major's Choice, this is Shamrock, so where do you draw that line to identify local versus non-local?
Well, and what we have, and I haven't received the study, is on Howard Park, when we get that study back, they know how to measure non-local, because they
Right.
have cameras that take your
Are doing
tag and then that camera picks up that tag where it enters the study area and exits the study area. So it's much more precise.
But we're not talking about using that methodology for all studies, because that's
No,
rather
we couldn't
expensive.
afford to do that, I don't think.
Right, yeah, because of the expense, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just curious, when is that study wrapping up?
I was hoping to get it like now, but they're telling me that they have to go back and pick up two speed measurements that somehow the devices did not work. And so, of course, they can't do it now. They're going to have to wait a few weeks before they can finish that up.
Right.
I would say by middle of February.
And that neighborhood thing also brings, in step 4 on page 4, where you have to get 75% approval of all homeowners that must cross over a new speed hump to get to their homes, including residents from other communities if applicable.
Yeah.
how do we draw that up? Like I said,
It's another one of the,
Yeah.
this is another one we took off of Hartford County. That one is another one that's difficult to assign. Hartford County has a much, everything's spread out a lot more, and
Right.
it's, whereas ours, some of these communities, you could have 300-400 homes, and that's one of those that I think we would have to massage a little bit.
Well, you could either have 300-400, or you could have like 8, because if you make the argument that you take Powell to get here, but you just go the next street over.
Right.
Well, then suddenly you've knocked out everyone who doesn't live on Powell. So that's when you're on a grid system like the town, that may not be the best one-to-one.
yeah.
The way that it applies in the county, where you have developments that have access roads and entry into them, like Amy Clay is a good example of something like that. Or even further out in the county, where you just have one main road and then a bunch of courts off of it.
Right.
That's a lot easier to count there, because there's either one or two ways in. Here with a grid, there's you could get to your house 5 different ways, if you wanted to see your neighbor's houses, and it would only add about 90 seconds to your commute. So that's a much harder.
Yeah, and we don't, if it's desired by the commissioners, we don't have to add that in. It's up to you.
I tend to think that sort of just geographic closeness to the intended installation is the best way to look at quote unquote community support.
But what's geographic closeness, Jake?
Well, I know. I mean, you've got to.
This is all I know.
You've got to draw
We're
the
trying to-
diameter of that circle somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when we are looking at
I mean, we
Linwood,
just don't want to be arbitrary. That's all I want to be. And so the citizens know where, everybody has expectations. We don't want to change them midstream or come up with new rules or whatever. We're trying to make the code as tight as we can, but I understand that there's some give and take. There's some.
we recently looked at Linwood Avenue, and what we took was everybody that's on Linwood, plus everybody who is just off of Linwood, back out to like halfway between Linwood and McPhail, because that's the next
Right.
street over. So the likelihood of somebody going McPhail or Linwood, it's kind of half and half, depending on where they live. So it's an educated guess as to where people are going to go. And a lot of it depends on, if you're on one of those off streets, you may take McPhail if you're headed down to MedStar. You may take Linwood if you're going into downtown Bel Air. It tends to wash out just because of how people utilize the roads and where they're going. But I mean, I agree with you. It's not it's not precise.
Right. So, yeah, I kind of agree with you, Jake. Something that's more geographical oriented rather than neighborhoods of neighborhoods or anybody that has to cross it.
We basically draw up the neighborhood based on
Okay.
where we think people are going to go. But it's a
Right.
guess.
Okay. Just curious, on page 6, where we say elementary school for item number 4 on the checklist, elementary school or town community playground. Does that mean a town-owned playground? What about a
Which item are you looking at?
Page 6, paragraph 4, where it says elementary school or town community
Right,
playground
it
within
could-
500 feet?
I can take the word town out of that.
Because we mean all playground, even if
Yes.
it's a
Yep.
a neighborhood playground with the HOA. Okay, I just wanted to know if there was a significance to that.
No,
Okay,
that's a good comment.
all right. Just an explanation on number 6 there. Last sentence in there says also for areas with 4 foot of unobstructed walking areas. Are you talking about a sidewalk? What do we mean by that? 4 feet of unobstructed walking areas.
I think when we were looking at that was sometimes you have people paths that are not real sidewalks, but they're walking paths that people take. We can just
I just didn't understand.
remove that and just say it's sidewalk. You got to have an all-weather sidewalk. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm kind of good with that. Rather than somebody's worn worn path in their front yard?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's, yeah,
Well, I mean-
there's a lot of, well, not a lot. In Town of Bel Air, we're pretty good, but there's some other places that where you just
Okay.
have a cow path. We can take that last sentence out.
And then, we got that, I think we addressed that, the accident rate. Page 8, where we have level 2,
Uh-huh.
first paragraph, you'd say the petition must be signed by 2/3. I think that's just a carryover. It should be 3/4, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then level 3, I mean, it's just a nit where you have up there, level 3, 80 to 110 points. Well, since the accident can be, the points for accidents has no limit. You can, it's 80
Yeah, I
plus.
could just say 80 points.
Just say 80 plus points,
Yeah.
because you could theoretically go over 110.
Yeah,
but
if you're that high,
if
you're
you're that
really,
high, yeah,
you got a problem.
you got a problem. I don't think we need the scoring sheet for that. So, anyway. All right, that was what I had.
Thank you for that, Steve. You did a great job. Very thorough. That's why
Just-
engineer, you know, attention to detail. Anybody else have anything?
I'd like to reiterate, I think it's very important that the citizens or complainants have an understanding that even if it goes through the process and they get the approval from the NTMP, it still has to go to the board, so that way they don't think, okay, you guys have, you know, we qualify for level 2,
Right.
and then it goes in front of us, so that,
And then it's subject to the budget
Right.
process
right.
as well.
Yeah, the desire here is to get the vague language out of here. We want to make sure that it's
Right.
understandable. So we will make sure about that.
And we do want to foster community input and dialogue. It's not, you know, a one-way street with information. It should be a dialogue going back and forth, and, you know, so people understand what, you know, what's all going on. It's not, you know, we want to have the transparency, we want to have the participation of the community, and that's why we're
I think
going
that's
through this.
partly what went wrong the last time was some people weren't clear on what was going on, and then other people thought it was, you know, one thing, and other people got dropped out of the communication process and thought a different decision had been made, and it just turned out to be, you know, a bigger problem than anybody wanted to see. So hopefully this will prevent them in the future.
Right.
Now, do you want, we can put into this manual, the commissioners will have a liaison, the minutes will be posted on the town website. I just need to understand where you're at on that, where you want to be.
I think Gavin wanted to be a liaison,
Yes.
so.
Okay, so there'll be a liaison?
And I would put
I-
the minutes up there in the neighborhood. You know, if somebody couldn't make it to the meeting or wasn't really following it and hears about it from somebody else, they can go and take a look at it and read it and see what happened.
Yeah, I'll reiterate that I am in favor of codifying the committee. If I'm outvoted on that, you know, I certainly don't want to be standing on the pier while the ship is leaving. So if we can put in the manual the closest approximation to that, I'm certainly in support of that as well. So I'm in favor of putting minutes up. I'm in favor of giving advance notice of meeting on the website, that kind of thing. So while my preference is to codify, if we don't have the votes to do that, we don't have the votes to do that, and as transparent as we can be is my preference.
So what I
Should
have,
we-
is it okay, typically we meet during the day and not in the evening,
That's fine.
is that right?
Yep.
So a liaison, minutes, notice the meeting, anything else?
Right. We were gonna put that in the manual, right?
Mhm.
Is that
And
what-
Yes,
then
that's
Yeah,
gonna go in the
we're gonna put
manual,
that
that's
in.
why I'm asking.
Right.
Of course, an agenda, which, you know, so people will know, okay, it's my street that is coming up for discussion. I can pay attention to it or not, depending on how interested they are.
Right, and then what we also have is the HOA is the preferred method of making a request versus an individual. And if an individual is making the request, they need 2 other people to make it with them. Is that still good?
That sounds good to me. I'm
Yeah.
glad that there's a way that doesn't involve the HOA. Some HOAs aren't terribly active, and some HOAs and their constituents are moving in different directions, is what I have found talking to people.
When we say that's the preferred way, what do we mean by that? We're not giving preference to those to those requests, are we?
No, well, if somebody comes in and they want the NTMP to review something, their request needs to either, one, be from an HOA,
Uh-huh.
or two, needs to have 3 people.
Okay, but beyond that, they're treated the same.
Yeah,
And if somebody in the community really wanted this and and almost everyone did except the 5 people who don't or the 5 people on the HOA board, they could still come to you and go through this process regardless
they
of what.
could.
Okay.
Right, and I'll make sure that
Good.
we look through that.
Good.
Because somebody could come in, even though they might be in a community that has an HOA, but the HOA
Yeah.
just did not been cooperative.
Yeah.
As long
I
as
just
they
don't
have
want to
3.
bottleneck this because
Right.
I don't think we need to give HOAs any more statutory power than they deserve.
I agree 100% with that, maybe 200%, so. Although my HOA is doing fine, so I'm happy. But I've heard some terrible horror stories from some other HOA members.
So, Madam Chair, are you okay with level 1 being handled by me? 2 and 3 are going to be budget items or cost issues. Level 1 are things that we can turn around quickly that really are not budget consequential.
I am,
Yeah.
yeah.
That way it doesn't
Right.
burden you guys with
And we can move a little
with
faster to
majority
help
of them,
out
right?
Right.
neighborhoods when they have a
2s and
problem.
3s, exact. 2s and 3s would definitely come before you.
And just so I think Eddie or Steve may reiterate this, is that we are going to follow MUTCD standards for signage. And that includes things like children at play,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
We
That doesn't-
really must, for anybody that's listening, we don't really have any choice. You have to follow the MUTCD.
Okay,
And if you don't, and there's a lawsuit, it will certainly be an issue.
right.
Okay.
I would just like to add in regards to codification. Initially, it doesn't sound like a bad idea because the more transparency, the better. However, I do think there is a trade-off there because as soon as the committee is subject to the Open Meetings Act, as soon as they have a quorum, 3 of 5, you can't speak any business related to NTMP, and that's correct, right?
I'm sorry, say that one more time, Gavin, I apologize.
So let's say, for example's sake, the NTMP is codified, and they have a quorum, and let's just say it's 5 members, 3 out of the 5. They cannot speak any business related to NTMP.
That's correct.
Okay.
Without having
Being
an open
in a
meetings
meeting.
agenda, whole 9 yards.
Right.
Yeah. So if the staff were to get together for, say, another reason entirely, and 3 of them are there and they're talking NTMB, that's a problem. Does that make sense?
Right.
It's a good point to make. And also,
Yeah.
I just, to me, the decision of the NTMP or their discussions is not going to bind, like, the entire populace of the town. It's pretty limited to the neighborhood that they're talking about or the couple of streets. So I'm comfortable not having it be a codified thing. I think it will give them more flexibility. I think they'll be able to proceed more quickly. We've had some problems where we wanted to do something or needed to do something on a timetable, but because of the Open Meetings Act, we had to have a special meeting or, do something else to get it in time for, like, grant things that needed to be signed, just simple things like that. So it sometimes complicates the process. And so I think as long as we're being, word transparency is getting worn out, but as long as the neighborhood is aware and kept aware of what is going on, I think that'll serve the same purpose.
Thank you. I would also, go ahead, Jake.
I was just gonna say, and it's not only do they not bind the town, they also don't bind us.
Correct.
So
Where
that-
there will be.
Right, and so I think that that's helpful, that the final decision is not made there, and that is helpful in thinking of this as an ad hoc committee. The reason I prefaced my earlier comments is because I was getting the sense that I was in the minority on that issue, and that's completely fine, but I guess for folks who either agree with me or I don't know who's listening, that is a good thing to remember, is that this will be,
It will be
The
done with
buck
an
stops
open
with us,
meeting, and
yeah.
there will be a vote, and those
So.
things are all codified, our actions.
Will they have the 3-minute rule as these meetings?
I said it before, I'll say it again. It is at the discretion of the NCMP what their rules or procedures are for
There
a
you go.
3-minute.
But
So,
we'll have to have a quorum to make that decision, right?
You will
Yeah.
have to work that out
Yes.
amongst the team, and I see both sides of that, like, I feel for you. You don't want somebody to take 30 minutes to go over and over the same thing. On the other hand, I've always found that 3 minutes is so limited on some issues that we hear, that what we do is we're
Yeah.
like, all right, we'll talk to you later and get more details about the issue. So I'm sure you'll be able to come up with something reasonable and not end up listening to 10 people for a half an hour each for an NTMP
And
meeting.
I will say this, that, you know, while we rarely exercise this discretion, and I think it's smart that we rarely exercise this discretion except when we call people specifically for presentations, any one of us as legislators can question people for an unlimited amount of time. If we want to say, come back up here, I have a question, we can do that. And that's not a great idea in this setting when we've got 50 people who want to testify before us, you know, because then we'd be here until 2 a.m. But if you've got 2 or 3 people who want to show up, and members of the committee want to get more information, I think as members of the committee, they are fully within their right to say, let's have a little bit more of a dialogue on this. We could too. It's just that's not always the best decision in a legislative hearing, but it can be in a work session.
Because we don't want it to end up in a back and forth argument.
We also don't.
Right.
Mike, that'll mean that you have to come to all our meetings so you can do the 3-minute.
Looking forward to it.
All right, anything else on the NTMP? All right, I think we have did you have a note? All right. In that case, the next item is discuss Maryland Senate Bill 47, Housing and Community Neighborhood Business Development Program Local Approval Requirement. Angela.
That's me. Just wanted to bring this to your attention. I received correspondence that we got through the Finance Department to report back our fiscal impact for this proposed Senate bill. So the purpose of Senate Bill 47 is to repeal the requirement that applications for the Neighborhood Business Development Program through the Department of Housing and Community Development would need a resolution from the local municipality for their project. So the program is a loan program for projects that are either through a nonprofit or a small business for up to $5 million in a priority funding area, which we are as a designated Maryland Main Street and Sustainable Community. And the two programs that work with this are Neighborhood Revitalization and the Neighborhood Business Works program. Currently, the department notifies us of a project, and we have 45 days to respond, either with approval, a resolution, however you all choose to handle that. I did discuss this with Eddie and also with Lisa. We do not see that this has any sort of fiscal impact on us, but it could potentially remove our knowledge of applications that are going forward through that program if we're not receiving notification in order to provide a resolution back. So we've been asked to submit the fiscal impact, and I'd like to go ahead, now that I've brought this to your attention, I'd like to go ahead and be able to get that back to them. But just wanted you to be aware of this proposed Senate bill. It would not apply to grant programs like Community Legacy and Strategic Demolition through DHCD. It's specific to Neighborhood Works and Neighborhood Revitalization. So the Senate hearing is scheduled for February 4th at 2. So there is still time that if you oppose this this Senate bill, that there's still time for you to provide feedback on that. But again, I'd like to go ahead and submit the fiscal impact since we don't see it having a fiscal impact.
And I think you should certainly go ahead and submit the fiscal impact, but it looks to me, and I will admit to sometimes not reading these correctly, but they are still going to provide written notice. You just don't have to get a resolution supporting it.
That is correct. I also read it
Okay.
prior. They still have to provide us notice. They're just taking away our authority to assent. I mean, we haven't done one of these in a while.
That is also correct. I
Right.
tried to just poll the group the other day to see, does anybody remember the last time that we have done one of these? We have done them for things like Community Legacy. So since I added it to the agenda for this evening, I did reach out to our contact at DHCD to make sure that it did not affect things like the grant programs for
Right.
Community Legacy, Strategic Demolition. It does not. So
And are these only for use of commercial projects?
It can be a nonprofit, so I guess it depends. It's a
Okay.
nonprofit or a small business can apply for these loan
Okay.
programs.
So in theory, it could be used for a residential project.
Oh, residential. I guess it depends on what the nonprofit is, right?
Yeah. I'm just trying to understand.
Right,
Because
yeah.
this is a departmental bill, which means it was not proposed by any member of the General Assembly. It was proposed at the request of Governor Moore's DHCD, and we know what their angle is. So I'm really just trying to understand, get to the root of, now we'll find out on February 4th when either the secretary or, I was about to say underlings, or undersecretaries or deputy secretaries present this bill and explain why the department has requested it be introduced. I oppose it because it whittles away a little bit of local control. I think we need to be granting localities more local control, not stripping away what little more we have. So I'm totally opposed to it for that reason. I'm just curious what their angle is, because obviously their goal across the board for DHCD is to increase generation of residential units, particularly high-density multifamily residential units. I'm curious if this works with that goal in some way, or if there's another reason why DHCD has requested it. It's interesting to me that they're doing this because, at least for us, it hasn't been used in memorable history. That doesn't mean that that's true for other parts of the state. It may be that there's somewhere in the state that maybe is a little bit more built up than we are, that has municipalities that are vetoing projects that the state cares about, and that may be the genesis for this bill. I'm merely speculating. I have no idea. But the two important points that I feel should be made are that I oppose it because it eliminates more local control, and I'm very curious to get a better understanding of why the administration has requested that it be introduced.
It does seem odd that they are taking away the requirement that the local subdivision approve it, because I haven't heard of any problems with this.
Right.
Not just in our town, but I haven't seen anything in the press. I'm not.
Sure.
What problem is it fixing?
That's the first thing that jumped out at Angela and I. Same observations we had. We don't know why.
Doesn't that mean that? I'm just trying to go back, based on your comment, Commissioner Taylor, that we would still be provided notice of the proposed project. And I'm looking at the draft of the bill that says brackets indicate matter deleted from existing law, and it has brackets around the department shall provide written notice to the political subdivision in which the proposed project is located.
Not quite. It has brackets around that letter 1, which is a
Yes.
grammatical change. See, the brackets don't extend around the language. So what's happening is because subsection 2 is being deleted in its entirety,
Oh, I see what you're
that
saying.
bracket around 1 needs to be deleted to reflect that that's now just section C,
Section C.
not section C1,
Okay.
because there's no longer a section C2.
All right, thank you. I
That
misinterpreted
is
that
what
bracket.
3 years in Annapolis gets you, yeah.
Yes.
I
I'll stay
sometimes
right
have
here.
that problem.
And thank you for that clarification, because I did read that the written notice was being deleted when in fact it's just the number 1. Okay.
But still, it was good to bring it to our attention. And do we want to think about this, or do we want to take a position on it as a board? I am also opposed to it
Yeah, I
because
think
I
we
don't
should
know what
oppose it.
I don't know what problem this is fixing, and I don't like to change things if it's not in response to some, pain point that somebody's experienced. It seems like they just want to let us know what they're going to do, but not give us any input.
I would suggest that we adopt a negative position on this, that we either send a letter or we send Paula. As you,
Or both.
Or both.
both.
You can send you as our emissary, as we have very effectively, I think, in years past. I remember either 1 or 2 sessions ago, you were the only brave soul
Was to
who
go in
testified
person.
against. And I was very proud of that because the town of
I
Bel Air
was
is paying
too.
attention.
We should.
And I also think, while we're on the topic, that we ought to take a position against, I forget the number, it's like 289 or something like that, that takes a jackhammer to single-family zoning. I know that that's something that's very important to us.
That one's, I haven't printed out, but it
Yeah.
is floating around there, and I agree with you on that as well.
So.
That is, I don't, they've kind of already done away with single-family zoning with the first round of their affordable housing, those 3 bills that they had, because basically it said, if you are zoned single-family, then you can put a townhouse in there, the 4 cottage houses. I don't think ADUs were part of that one. I think that was a separate one, but I'll have to go back and pull that one as well, but I think they've already done a significant amount of damage. One thing that I specifically remember was you could put a mobile home in, not just a manufactured, off-site, rather than stick-built on-site house, but an actual mobile home.
That had gotten written out of the bill.
I'll have to look, because there was a lot of going back and forth. They're clearly very hostile to single-family neighborhoods, which.
I really should remember, but I hadn't remembered that one passing. But
It did not.
It did
Right,
not?
I didn't think it
Okay,
did. I didn't.
okay, that's
Because
good.
that bill was then turned into the vesting bill.
Okay.
Which, so at first it got amended out, and then the bill that it got amended into died. So
Which they're revisiting now.
they are revisiting
They are
both, and now
revisiting.
they're revisiting in separate bills. They got this hot idea about vesting after they rewrote the other one, and now that's back as another bill. And this is also back the old version of the vesting bill, which was previously about single-family zoning, among
Right.
other things.
Right.
They're back as two separate bills.
Okay.
So they wouldn't be doing it if they passed it already. That was sort of what was
I wasn't sure what
the
else they
flag
were
that was going
doing.
off. No, I know.
I'm not sure they always know what they're doing. All right, so we will take a look at that bill as well.
They're slowly turning into New Jersey.
We are. We are.
Thank you for reviewing that, and
Yes,
I
thank you.
will go ahead and submit the fiscal impact, as long as you feel that I'm the one to do that. And,
And we will take up the other
Right.
issues,
Yep,
as
and-
well as the other bill.
yeah, then the hearing is February
just-
4th at 2.
And decide whether that's coming up quickly, because it's next week.
Quicker than it seems, yeah.
Yes, all right,
Thanks.
thank you. All right, then, if we are finished with Senate Bill 47, next up is discuss a proposal to declare a town property a public park that's located at 401 South Atwood Road. Is that you, Kevin?
Start with me.
Okay, we'll start with you.
There's a property located off of Atwood Road, somewhat opposite Point Breeze Credit Union, that was purchased back in 2003 by the town. I don't know for what purpose back then, but it has been been looked at over the years as a potential for a park. One of the things that we've done recently that you accepted was the bicycle pedestrian plan. That bicycle pedestrian plan shows a connection running from the high school or points near the high school to Atwood Road. In addition, recently the Cultural Arts Commission is proposing a sculpture to go in at that intersection at the same time at Marketplace and Atwood. One of the things that delayed us when we were thinking about putting in a walking path was the fact that the stream was going to be going under a remediation. And that was, I don't know what Steve might be able to help you is what year that was, but it was probably about 4 or 5 years ago. And now that it's stabilized, and I think if we were to put a walking path through there, it would you wouldn't be walking through a desolate, treeless terrain. So the intention here is, one, to designate this as a park. Two, and that will also help us, I think, with getting grants, and also to implement the this walking path, or put it into the CIP process to implement in coming years. But we would, I think, as far as this budgetary process, we would get a sign fabricated and put in. We may put in some benches, depending on how appropriate that might be, and then we're also going to seek easements from adjacent properties to continue that path through and to its final destination, which I'm hoping we can take it all the way to 24, but we'll see how far we go. Anything you want to add?
stream restoration area?
It's close to it, yes. It's in the flood, some parts of this property are in the floodplain.
I didn't realize any of this was happening, so we need to talk about that a little bit.
Okay.
Okay, so just
Or
a,
if we even have the ability to go into the stream restoration area and put a pathway or a park.
Well, that'll depend on the area that we're putting the path in. So there's a wide range of pathways.
So this parcel appears to be sort of a leftover, if you will, 1.52 acres that was left over from the Park View at Bel Air subdivision. That was completed back in roughly 2002. My office did a really cursory bring-to-date title examination. It was conveyed to the town free of charge by the developer. The plat has a reference on this lot that it is restricted use as a conservation area. So, not only what Steve just, obviously communicated his concerns with is, this parcel is not suitable for any kind of major development. So we already own it. There's no cost to acquire, so we don't need an ordinance and a public hearing. The plat in and of itself provides an adequate meets and bounds description, so no survey is required. So obviously, this is consistent with the bike and ped plan as well as the comprehensive plan. So, I think it's a great idea and a great addition, so.
Yeah. I mean, this is already part of the portfolio of Bel Air's green space.
Correct.
And I think, it's essentially at this point an ecological preserve based on what you've, that
Correct.
might be a little bit fancy language for what we're talking about, but I think it's a wonderful way to preserve what's already in the land record, and just, express our commitment to, because I know that ever since I've been elected, one of my, big focuses has been preserving what green space we have in the town, and doing some work to that end. So I think that this is a great way to further that goal.
And also, the property has been on the town of Bel Air kind of, rolls, if lack thereof. Several of us, including myself, in my office did the deed, didn't know that we owned it. Kevin pointed it out in some discussions that we had. So we thought it would be a good suggestion to the commissioners as providing the public with another resource. Because just because the town of Bel Air owns property does not necessarily mean that the public is invited to attend to it or utilize it in any way, even if they just want to sit in the trees and listen to the birds and meditate. Whatever they want to do, they can do within the rules. So, dedicating it as a public park and designating as such, only requires a resolution, which we are circulating back and forth. The one thing we were all hung up on that none of us are certainly have suggestions, I think, but the commissioners need to give us a name of said park. I can't really give you much of any more than that as far as if you wanted a historical background, I'd have to do more digging as to what family owned it, unless Eddie or someone else who is, a jar of a memory can tell us. But that's all I can really say about it, so whatever you guys want to do.
All right, well, I suggest everybody put on their thinking caps in the next couple of days and figure out, while you're watching the snow, what would be a great name for another little piece of green in the town of Bel Air.
Is it much of a problem to look at the history?
It would take a bit of digging. It would probably be at least 3 weeks before I could get to it with my current workload.
And I just wanted to say also that when I served on cultural arts, that we identified, as Kevin had said, that one, and I talked about that earlier, that we identified that one little spot at the end of it. And we really, Angela, if you remember, didn't we envision park benches and such being around there? And that would be a really, really neat space for the Parkview residents to be able to, because we see them crossing there, and we just really, we just thought that that was a place that just needed something beautiful.
It is a highly visible area, and we noted the pedestrian traffic there from Parkview. I'm not certain exactly where this parcel of property is, if it's right behind the area or across from it, across Atwood.
I would call it adjacent.
Okay.
Nearby.
Okay, so, yes, but we did talk about potentially adding an amenity depending on the proposed artwork that we get as a result of the RFP that's currently been issued, if a bench would be appropriate, looking at other amenities down the line. But that was before I'm only just hearing about the park initiative.
For point of reference, since I can't I'm directly challenged, I just say it's by the McDonald's. It's my understanding it's right next to Hartford Cleaners. Does that help? Kind of where it's at?
Yeah.
It's like ATA Martial Arts and then.
There's,
And
right, I
Gallant-
think there's maybe a couple of other businesses beyond Hartford Cleaners.
It's the last
And
one
it's-
then.
Gallant's Automotive.
Yeah.
Right, there's an automotive shop, and then, you know, where the road makes a turn and you can go left to, yes, to stay
No,
on
it's-
Atwood.
Yeah, it's further down. Closer to ATA Martial Arts.
Oh,
Yeah, on that side of Atwood. Well, I
Okay.
guess that's Atwood, right?
so
Yeah.
so the sculpture we're looking at is right at the corner of Marketplace and Atwood.
When I look at 401 South Atwood on the map, I'm looking at a parcel of land south of Gallant's Automotive that backs up to the track of
Yes.
Bel Air High School.
Yes.
That's correct.
That's correct.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah.
Before the term, we stay on the south side.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Does that
ATA is
Yeah,
up
it's like-
across.
Toward the corner, near
Yeah.
It's on the same side, but it's down a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
The other nice thing about this area too, Kevin and I talked about, is that this is directly adjacent to the high school, and it's the watershed, it's environmental area that the high school uses for their students would basically parallel this piece of property. The only downside is they're not gonna put a gate in their fence to have access to it, but it is within a walkable distance if they wanted to do further studies for the students. So there's a potential partnership with the school there to use it for environmental studies for their students.
I can definitely see that happening, because at Southampton, they use that, well, it's part of Southampton, but I mean, the 7th grade biology and some of the 8th grade classes are going out there weekly for lessons, so I can definitely see them part of their environmental.
And then a longtime town resident who lives in Darlington, John Sowers, the artist, has come to me several times talking about, and I'm at a loss to find his email, an indigenous plant or an indigenous insect of some sort that lives in that area, and he has been a proponent of saving that area to protect that particular plant or species of animal. I'm just hard pressed to find the email where he told me what it was. But it does extend over into the wetlands that go in behind the the Atwood Professional Building. So a lot of nice long-term possibilities for this area, especially with the district court building coming too, so.
Okay, well, I think we're all in favor of the park. We just have to come up with a name. All right, we'll work on that.
Look into it.
Staff comments. Michael Krantz, do you have any comments to make, sir?
Not at this time, thank you.
Not at this time. Eddie?
Madam Chair, I will. Obviously, it snowed just a couple of inches over the last couple of days, and I figured it might be the conversation tonight. But I'll leave my directors to speak to each of their team's works, but I wanted to point out something that I've had a chance to observe. Between the BGE incident on Pennsylvania Avenue and this, it's been a really stellar opportunity for my team to see how we work in a crisis disaster situation. Not that this is a disaster, but certainly a critical incident. Pennsylvania Avenue had the opportunity or the possibility of being something a lot more dangerous. But what I was pleased about is that, the planning process that we went through, I can't say enough thanks, and I know we'll all be talking about it shortly, but I can't say enough thanks to my staff in terms of planning. I know that Bel Air PD and DPW are our forward-facing employees that the public sees the most, but there's a cadre of people that over the last week worked behind this snowstorm planning to be prepared and to basically be the support network for our people in the field. Everywhere from Mike and David to the department heads to the folks at DPW who cooked meals, to DES and all the planning. It was a fairly concerted effort, and I don't want anyone to lose sight that I have the utmost regard for DPW and Bel Air PD. 45 straight hours of working, did amazing work, but there was also a litany of people behind them as well that made this a complete town-wide team effort. And I just didn't want to lose sight of that, and I want to say thank you to my entire staff, especially the team of folks sitting here and the people that participated with me on the conference calls to make sure that you were kept fully informed, that we knew the location of shelters, evacuation procedures, and the list goes on, as you can imagine. So I just wanted to offer my thanks and congratulate my staff on a job well done, not only for BGE as we continue to work through that, and you'll hear more about that later this evening, but also for the storm as it unfolded. So thank you, ma'am.
I think you'll hear more of that later from us.
I think so.
Probably.
I will be cautious to tell you that we are monitoring the next storm. to see if the American and European models align, and right now we are Team European model, just in case you want to know.
I have been watching that myself.
I
I'm
don't
waiting to
think so.
see. Currently, my
Stay
phone
below.
says we're safe, but I don't trust that very much. And
you think,
it's a little too far out to have any kind of confidence in what next weekend's going to bring.
For sure.
So we'll see.
Thank you.
All right. Liz?
Friday is the continuation of the zoning violation trial that will never seem to end. So hopefully we will have that wrapped up on Friday. Again, thanks to Kevin for all his hard work. Also, I sent you guys 2 filings on Friday. Read them if you need something to fall asleep to. I'm happy to provide the exhibits, but they were literally hundreds of pages.
Wow.
So please let me know, and I'll put it on OneDrive if you guys want to take a look at it. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin? Lisa? Angela? I want to thank you, Angela, for watching out for us on all the legislation that you're sending our way. Now we have to read it and find out what it says. All right. Steve?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. A couple things. Just FYI, I have been subpoenaed by the defendant on the case on Friday, so not really sure what that's all about, but just wanted to bring that to your attention. And Eddie has asked me to brief a little bit on what the operations incurred this week. So I just wrote a little, some remarks down. Public Works performed exceptionally well, and I'm extremely proud of the team's effort. DPW staff worked continuously from midnight Saturday through Monday at approximately 3:30, completing an impressive 39.5 hours of operations without interruption. I'm pleased to report that there were no injuries, vehicular incidents, or equipment accidents during the entire operation. Department deployed 10 plow trucks, several loaders, and 2 smaller sidewalk tractors equipped with snow blowers and plows. Approximately 100 tons of salt were applied to roadways throughout the storm, with additional treatment continuing due to the thaw-freeze situations with the extreme cold that we're experiencing. Our salt reserves were partially replenished today, so we did receive some new loads today. And further orders are in place, so hopefully we'll get a few more loads before any future events. To assist with snow removal in the Major's Choice and White Oak community, we engaged a private contractor operating 2 skid steers. The compact equipment proved highly effective in these challenging areas where conventional plows lack sufficient space to push the snow. The ability to lift the snow rather than plow it really makes it a lot easier in those tight townhouse areas. And we really helped a lot of people, and we received very positive response from the community residents. So I think that was a good move for us to do so. Also, our administrative staff with Chrissy and Brian Mullaney and Jolie King played a huge role in keeping our morale high. They prepared 5 hearty dinner meals for the crew, including a Sunday dinner, which included ham, mashed potatoes, green beans, corn, buttered rolls, and cornbread, followed by an assortment of cookies, cakes, and brownies. And really, really nice meals, kept the guys fed, and they didn't have to go out and order Wawa and things of that nature, and they ate real healthy home-cooked meals. Lastly, one of the most gratifying aspects, in my opinion, was the positivity and teamwork displayed throughout. Everyone stayed focused, cooperative, and in great spirit. There were no complaints or tensions, just a shared commitment to serve the town. Overall, this event showcased the professionalism, capability, and camaraderie of our DPW team. And I can just tell you, the commissioners, that I'm very, very proud of my crew, and they did absolutely a fantastic job. And let's bring on the next one, and we'll show again that we get it done.
You might get what I wish, so we'll see.
So that's all I have, ma'am. Thank you.
Well said. All right. Chief?
Yes, ma'am. Just kind of jumping on what you said, you know, I did have a chance to hear about the performance and seen it a little bit since I live in town. DPW did an exceptional job, and had a chance to even walk in down there while they were having their meals. And I have to say that I would probably rather be down there and getting those home-cooked meals than what we had up here. Although my staff performed exceptionally, it was basically like business as usual. They're used to it. We had extra staff come in on day shift and evening shift, 4 dispatchers and police officers with No complaint, and they were ready to jump when they needed to. Most of the time, they just kind of stayed stationary because we don't want them out there too much. We let DPW go out and do the rough work. And I tell you, those guys lift the little bit of snow I lift. I can't imagine doing that all day. I just can't imagine, because I couldn't even sleep that night. Just a little bit I had to do, and they're out there doing it all the time. I mean, even today, it's like ice now. It's like jackhammers getting that stuff loose. I do have to bring up one prolific event. You might have gotten some word about it. It was the 15-year-old autistic kid who left his home unnoticed on Comer Square right during the probably the worst part of the storm on Sunday. And very proud of the crew that went out there to help find him. We state police were out there with a bloodhound. Sheriff's office was helping. Harford County DES came with an ambulance, and our officers actually went out and found some witnesses. And then probably, had we not had those witnesses, we could have had a very tragic event. So he went from Comer Square behind Southampton Middle School and ended over across Moores Mill Road in the wooded area. Very lightly dressed during the worst part of the storm. And if you want, I sent you the link, Mike. If you want to pop it up and show them, we did a little video that we put on Facebook that you might want to take a look at. And if we can't do it now, that's fine, but you can see it on our Facebook page. But our officers did an exceptional job just trying to isolate where that child went. And you might say, well, there's footprints. Well, there's wind blowing out there, and you couldn't. And he was probably out there probably around 2 hours. So we're very, very lucky that we found him. And you'll see in the video, this kid is in good shape because our officers were. They were running the whole time to try to find him because we just have a limited amount of time. And if you're familiar with autism, there's and maybe Liz can kind of expound on it. There's a drive to try to find water areas, and she explained why, and I didn't know why that existed before. It was very it helped me out to understand why people with that condition want to find water. I guess it brings calm to them. So that's what we were worried about. We were looking for all the ponds and the streams and everything else, and that's where he was kind of headed toward the stream back there. So if you want to see the video, you're welcome to take a look at it. Very heroic, very proud of what they did, and probably saved a life that day. So were you able to get it, Mike? Or no? All right, just take a look at your Facebook page. It's on there. And
I did see that he was found and was safe, and I was, I think everybody was very relieved to see that. It was so cold out to be out in that weather.
So unlike Steve's people, we're out there all the time. Mine are kind of sitting, and they're just waiting, and when something happened, they rose to the occasion. So, yeah.
So, Madam Chair, to follow up on the chief's thing, he and I talked about this. When you see the video, you're going to see him, but you'll see houses in the background. One of the common things we see with missing people is you don't necessarily find them deep in the woods. Sometimes you find it within 100 yards of where they live. So Chief and I are prepared that if the citizens were to be critical and say, well, wait a minute, where's the houses? Why couldn't he see them? People don't see what they're looking for when it's right in front of them. Sometimes they don't expect it to be there. So quite frankly, he was probably only 200 yards from the closest house, but that's where we most likely find missing people, and that's where we found him.
I was just glad to see that he was found quickly and he was okay. All right. Any other staff comments? All right. Commissioners' comments.
Well, I'll go ahead and start. And again, thank you so much, Steve, and your whole crew. And I'd like to get on that dinner. Is there an ad hoc committee or something that we could perhaps make casserole? Maybe we'll start a casserole. I'll be the liaison for that. But I mean, we could. I'm serious. I love to cook. I love to bake. Anybody that knows me, that's one of my love languages. So I would love to be able to help in any way.
I did forget to mention that Mr. Klein himself made 40 grilled cheese sandwiches in about 30 minutes.
You're a beast.
On Monday, so to help the effort.
Awesome. The other thing I just wanted to say quickly is Gavin, Commissioner Hanley and I had our second round of orientation, and we got to meet with Chief and with Liz and Eddie, and it was pretty incredible. And I really encourage anybody especially in the community about the municipality citizen training camp. So if you could forward, or do I have that somewhere, the information on that? I wanted
can
to
send it
give
to
that.
you.
Yeah, I wanted to hand that out to some folks. So thank you all again. Looking forward to you. So we'll see you soon. Thanks.
I just want to reiterate, great job the town did keeping the citizens informed through Facebook and all the posts on there, and great job keeping the streets clear. I know I've talked to a lot of people, they were very happy with the responses, and I've talked to some people in the county who were not so happy with the responses. So that's a good thing. And I had some people come up, or not to me, they didn't know that I was a commissioner, say, yeah, I give Bel Air a C- for snow removal. I said, where do you live? He goes, out of Henderson Road. I said, well, that's the county. So directed to the county. So anyway, you guys did great. Thanks
Mr.
again.
Chismar, thank you very much for the care package. It didn't last long in the PD, so, yeah.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
That, my wife, and I, yeah. You guys deserved it.
I will also heap praises on all of our emergency responders who were out working the storm. I'm one of those folks that likes to stay up as late as I can to watch it and watch the accumulation. And we were supposed to get it around midnight, didn't really show up until 4 a.m., so I was asleep in my chair on the living room when I woke up the next morning around 6 a.m. and saw it really coming down. And I saw a Bel Air plow in my little court probably 4 times that day. I mean, it really is incredible the level of dedicated service that we can provide to all of our citizens, not just folks who live on, and I'm going to pick on some of my colleagues, not just folks who live on major roads like Broadway and North Shamrock, but really little courts where you're only serving maybe 20 residents, but they're getting as much attention, within reason, of course, but they're getting as much attention. It really is a feather in our cap. On slightly less, enjoyable news, I did also want to inform my colleagues and the staff and anyone else who is listening. This evening is the currently still ongoing testimony on House Bill 488, otherwise known as the gerrymandering bill, which would redraw Maryland's congressional districts, the sole purpose of which is to remove Maryland's only Republican in Congress. And regardless of what you think of that, the way that it does that to get there is split Harford County in 2, which is really what I care about as a local elected official. So you'll recall that under the current congressional map, Harford County was made whole for the first time in 10 years. Previously, we had been whole for the past, 10 years before that. We had been split along I-95 essentially, which really I think is a deep shame because Harford County, especially for the past several years, as I've been involved, has really been trying to mend that age-old North County-South County split. And there's been a lot of money and resources that have gone into that. And I think that this is just an unfortunate fractious move by the General Assembly to really pour some salt in that old wound in Harford County. And of course, they aren't concerned about the effect that it will have on our community, socially, culturally, politically, economically, about breaking us in 2 when we'd fought so hard to be put back in 1. Because as a county of 250,000 people, and when a congressional district is roughly 750,000 people, there's no reason why all of Harford County shouldn't be in 1 congressional district. There really just isn't. And that can look like uniting us with the Eastern Shore, as has been done for the past 20 years, or if you go back beyond that, when we were represented by then Congressman Bob Ehrlich, when we were united with Northern and Eastern Baltimore County. You can draw it that way, too. Either way, Harford County remains whole. And so I was just really deeply disappointed to see that old wound reopened by Annapolis. Further, the decision-making process regarding who will represent central, our area, as well as northern Harford County in Congress, really under this new map becomes outsourced to far-flung communities like Owings Mills, Roland Park, Ellicott City, Columbia. That's where the political gravity of the new Maryland 3rd District, which is where all the town of Bel Air would be in, we would really represent a very small fraction of that new district, making it very difficult for us to exercise our voice in who our member of Congress would be. So for all those reasons and more, when the hearing started at 3, I got online to testify against it on my own behalf, as well as a town commissioner, not on behalf of this board, but in my own office. They were still very much ongoing by the time I got here, and as I understand it, they're still ongoing now. I did send them my written testimony. I made that public as well. That's something that is small when it comes to the day-to-day running of municipal local government, but it matters. It matters that our constituents have a fair voice and fair maps, and it's just a shame to see Annapolis moving against it. For anyone who may be interested in this, and certainly folks in this room, it does look like the House is going to pass this map. The Senate has said it will not take it up. That remains to be seen, as political pressure will mount surely on Senate leadership. The governor was there today to present the bill alongside Delegate C.T. Wilson, so there's a lot of firepower behind it. We'll see what happens. Regardless, I would be shocked if it weren't, if it were to pass the Senate, which would shock me at least a little. There would almost certainly be case and cause for an injunction that it could not be enforced this election, because we're just too close to the primary, and otherwise we'd be looking at a primary in like September. So you're really messing with people's right to vote. You're messing with people's right to have fair representation and competitive elections. For all those reasons, it's a terrible map, and I hope at least the Senate will be, as Jefferson called it, that cooling saucer of democracy to temper the violent passions of the House. Then we'll see.
We'll see.
Kudos to all the town staff. Thank you for all your hard work throughout the storm. This Thursday, I'm looking forward to the Towson Hot Bagel grand opening. I think it's going to be great. I wish them great success. This Friday night, big night for the town of Bel Air. We have Bel Air Lions Club Bingo. Doors open at 6. Bingo starts at 7. I'm going to try and make my way over there after I attend Paula Eddings' campaign kickoff over at Rockfield Manor. So she is going to kick off her campaign for District C, and I wish her great success.
I'm going to repeat what everybody else said. You did a great job, both the police department and Public Works. And I did see social media talking about the smaller equipment, the is it skid steers that you brought in? They were very happy to see those come in. They really weren't sure where they came from, because they're not, tagged with the town of Bel Air, but they were thrilled to have them there. Those townhouse communities are so tight. It is really hard to work with a pickup truck. And to second what Commissioner Taylor has said, I do live on the loop road, and the big truck comes down my street, but at the same time, like minutes later, there's a pickup truck in the court across the street from my house that only has about maybe 5, top 6 houses on it. They get plowed out very quickly, and I know from having worked in the county, you're going to wait a while if you're a court with 6 houses in the county, and that's not to criticize the county. It's just a function of how many roads they have to do and the much bigger area that they've got, right? We're pretty compact, 3 square miles, it's doable, but I know it was a lot of hard work. And congratulations to everybody that, came in and worked, whether it was with the police side, Public Works side. We really appreciate it. You guys did a great job. I could have gotten out, but there was nowhere to go because everything was closed. And, to the police department and to Public Works, it is tough when you're out there working in that cold to get a decent meal because all the restaurants are closed. So you have very, very few choices. If it's really bad, sometimes you don't even have the choices of the Wawa or something. So it is really important. Army travels on its stomach, and you guys have to be well fed. So I'm really glad that, it happened, that you got plenty of good food to eat. And I'm with Kristen. I think we're going to stop by the next snowstorm and bring a pie or something, right? All right. The other small piece of news, which is not news anymore, it's public, that Amazon Fresh is apparently closing all their brick and mortar stores. So what will end up being in the mall, we don't know. There's a hole that they will have to fill with, something else. But Amazon Fresh is never coming, so that is no longer a mystery. The last thing I wanted to talk about with the commissioners actually was, did we all get the email from the the Public Information Research Group?
Oh, yeah, the PERG.
PERG.
Yes.
Did you get that as well? Everybody got one?
Things in the past from them.
I don't remember getting anything in the past,
Okay.
but this, I do have, I think we all got it. We don't have to respond. We don't have to respond as a board. We don't have to respond at all. The young woman that sent it apparently is an intern, and she called the office today. So I am going to return her call, but the bad news is that I do not support their hostility towards natural gas. I mean, it is the most clean of the fossil fuels. It is really an important part of Maryland's energy right now. I see a lot of things lining up to try to derail that. It used to be natural gas is the clean energy, and I can see that commercial, right? And now it's dirty and it's dangerous. So I am a house with gas heat. I had a heat pump, and I would never go back unless I had no other choices. It is a much cheaper. I see people on social media with their huge energy bills from electric-only homes. We are buying our energy from out of state. We are just moving our dirty business somewhere else because they are using, coal and oil to produce electricity. So I'm not sure what the point is, and they're just not ready. The so-called clean and renewable energies, they're just not ready for prime time. They cannot carry the weight, particularly in a cold snap like this.
I'll say this, when you look at the PJM grid this past weekend, 40% of the power came from coal and natural gas. 30% of the power came from nuclear. 20% of the power, actually, I apologize. 40% of the power came from natural gas. 20% came from 30% came from nuclear. 20% came from coal, and 10% came from solar and wind combined. It is very clear that those heavily subsidized and heavily preferred by Annapolis methodologies cannot begin to support the grid in its current state. And further, they're really doing everything they can to clip the wings of natural gas and BGE because, and I'm not going to sit here and say that everything that BGE does is good and right and correct, because surely it isn't. I'm with the ratepayers and the folks consuming the energy. And, we'll call balls and strikes when BGE does something wrong, but certainly when Annapolis does something wrong. And what really got me about you asked, so I'll just share. What really got me about the message that we got is that it was deeply reminiscent. There was a hearing on energy prices when there was that great big surge, and Annapolis wanted to act like they were doing something. So they hauled BGE in and said, why are you raising prices? Really raked them over the coals, for lack of a better term. But at the same time, those were the same people who refused to fund replacing pipes. Why? Because they didn't want to put more money into building new natural gas infrastructure if we're not going to rely on natural gas, if we're going to rely on solar and wind instead. So how can you, out of one side of your mouth, say we're not going to fund the money for new pipes because we're not investing in new infrastructure, but at the same time we need to move away from natural gas because the pipes are too risky and they're going to explode, and that's really the reason why we want to do it, and not because we care about solar and wind. And I found that email that we received really engaged in that same kind of equivocation where you talk out of both sides of your mouth. We're not going to give you the money to fix the pipes, but also you can't do your business because your pipe's too risky. And I think that regardless of who wins in Annapolis, which lobbyists, which political players win by being able to go out on WJZ or whatever and say, look at all this we're doing for clean energy, it's the ratepayers who lose and the people who get multi-$100 bills when they really shouldn't be. And so I'm with you on that meriting.
And it's way cheaper to heat with gas, I think, still. It used to be even cheaper, but I did see some ad from, I think, another provider from another state that said it was like 3.5 times cheaper than electricity. So this is the United States of America. I refuse to sit in a cold, dark house. I think that's where they're heading us, and I think they're going to find out that people are going to be very, very unhappy. And the huge bills that I see on social media for homes that are all electric are just crazy. They're $900 a month. It's insane. And it's not a 6,000 square foot house. So I don't, they're doing a terrible thing to every ratepayer and to every resident in the state of Maryland that wants to stay warm and have the lights on. So I think I'll call her and respond. But I thought about not calling her or just emailing her, but I feel like people are in echo chambers sometimes, and they need to hear that, not everybody agrees with them. And, what is the plan? We cannot plan for solar and wind. It is not going to keep us warm when it's 5 degrees out. So everybody can make their own decision on what to do with that. But, all right, that was all I had. Anybody else? Anything else? All right, having finished commissioners' comments, we're going to move on into closed session. May I have a motion?
Yes, Madam Chair, I move that this portion of the meeting will be closed under the provisions of the Maryland Open Meetings Act, General Provisions, Article 3, subsection 305, Sections B, 1, 10, and 15. The topic of discussion will be to discuss the appointment of officials to the town boards, commissions, and committees, and to discuss topics related to public security and cybersecurity following the December 31st, 2025 utility pole fire on Pennsylvania Avenue. The reasons for closed session discussion of the above topics will be because public discussion of candidates' names, qualifications, experience, and background could discourage people from volunteering for public service or compromise their privacy rights, and because public discussion of sensitive operational details and security information that, if disclosed publicly, could present risks to the town's infrastructure and the safety of its residents.
Thank you, Commissioner Taylor. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Chismar. And Mr. Krantz, before we vote, I just want to make everyone aware that we will not be conducting any further public business after our closed session. We will just adjourn when the closed session is over.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So for the vote to go into closed session, Commissioner Foss,
Aye.
Commissioner Chismar,
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor,
Aye.
Commissioner Hanley,
Aye.
and Chair Edding.
Aye.
We'll be going into closed session. Thank you.